This is the Berman Method podcast featuring Dr. Jake Berman and physician assistant Jenni Berman. We are here to treat problems and not symptoms. Disclaimer, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and not to treat anyone or to give medical advice. If you are interested in any information that we are giving and would like to use this for yourself, we recommend that you contact your primary care physician or reach out to us and ask us questions about yourself specifically. Enjoy.
And we're back. The Berman Method podcast, where we are treating problems and not symptoms. And we're back together. My name's Dr. Jake Berman with my lovely wife,
Jenni Berman, physician assistant.
What is happening? It seems like it's been forever since we've done one of these together, hasn't it?
It has, a couple of weeks.
It's been like since last year.
I was just going to say that. Since last year, yes, you're correct.
Oh my gosh, I love it. So we've missed everybody doing this together.
Yes.
The past couple ones have been solo podcasts, very informative in our opinions and a lot of other people's opinions. We got some really good feedback from this past few podcasts. So if you haven't listened to the past two, go back and listen to them.
Especially because today's is going to kind of go off of the first one of this year that I did by myself.
Talking about gut health, right?
Gut health.
So one thing that we want to talk about at the beginning of the year, we're in January and everybody's got these New Year's resolutions and everybody wants to make changes and everybody's all excited and motivated to start going to the gym and start eating a little healthier, drink a little less, eat a few less cookies if you're me. But there are some things that you can change that are very simple things to change that can make huge impacts on your overall goals that you're trying to achieve.
Correct.
Do you want to get right into it, the thing that I was talking about earlier?
Sure. Jump right in.
So one of the things that I thought is important, because Jenni is obviously the expert, and one of the things that we run
Expert in what?
I was going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that we run into as experts is the curse of knowledge, meaning that we know so much in our fields that we are experts in that a lot of times we will forget that the vast majority of the population don't know the very basic fundamental things. We'll talk a little bit more about this in next week's episode when we get into pain and aging gracefully and things like that. However, to get back to today's episode, Jenni is an expert in the gut. She is an expert in helping people lose weight, heal their gut, hormone imbalances, leaky guts. This is what Jenni is an expert in. So a lot of times we can get caught up in talking about the things that we think are very, very important and forget about the very basic fundamentals, meaning sometimes the things that we're talking about is, for example, level 10. And we forget about levels 1 through 9 that are the important things that got us to level 10. So that's what I think that we should talk about today. Is that okay?
Okay. Going back, yes. It was our conversation 2 weeks ago about gut health and infertility or abnormal menstrual disorders was very in-depth. I agree with that. So taking a step back this week, going back to some of the more basics about gut health and how this can affect our body systemically.
Yes, I think that today's episode should talk to the masses versus the very specific, where infertility, that's talking to a very specific demographic, a very specific person that's listening to this podcast. So it's not talking to everybody. Kind of like my podcast talking about golf. There's not everybody that's listening to this podcast is a golfer. So today we're going to talk about something that really affects everybody. Not a single person listening to this thing cannot benefit from what we're going to talk about today.
Correct. Believe it or not.
Are you ready? Drum roll. How's that for a drum roll?
I liked it. We'll have to see what it sounds like on the other end.
Gluten. We're going to talk about gluten today. I know that at least 50% of the people listening to this right now just rolled their eyes and are saying, what the heck, not gluten again. But I do want to talk about how gluten sensitivities can present in a very large percentage of the population, where when people who don't have a gluten sensitivity or allergy
that they know of,
when they hear the words gluten sensitivity or gluten allergy, they automatically shut it down and think it's not for them, because they think that if you have a sensitivity or an allergy to gluten, it's going to present as
stomach aches, bloating, primarily GI issues.
Diarrhea. Remember, we're going very superficial today.
Yes.
We don't want to go really in depth with medical terminology. We want to make sure that everybody can understand this. We want to make it to where a fifth grader could understand what's going on in this podcast. So diarrhea, the vast majority of the population that I talk to in my world, when they hear the word gluten sensitivity, they think that that equates to having diarrhea.
Okay, right.
Cha-cha-cha.
Hope nobody's eating breakfast right now.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, yes, you're right. So people will automatically think towards the gastrointestinal, abdominal pain, diarrhea, bloating. I know.
You just can't help it, can you? Gastrointestinal. What the hell is a gastrointestinal?
I'm rolling my eyes.
That's your guts, your intestines, right?
Okay. Go on.
So yes, most people think about that. But what we should talk about today is, what are some other things that people are living with every single day, potentially their whole entire lives, where they're treating it with topical creams or over-the-counter drugs, thinking that this is just who I am. These are my genetics. My mother had it, so I have to have it. What are some things that people are living with that really are disguising themselves as a gluten sensitivity?
It's a great question. And it can go from head to toe, inside to outside. So we can have things such as childhood asthma or even adult asthma, exercise-induced asthma, psoriasis or eczema, which is a dry skin disorder, migraines.
Hold on. Remember, very superficial. Dry skin disorder, also known as gator skin, right?
Oh, okay.
You didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, one of my best friends growing up, he's had psoriasis, and he called it his gator skin because it looks like he got scales.
Oh, yes, it does. I mean, that's what psoriasis is scaling, yes.
Well, some people might not know that scaling is actually called psoriasis. So gator skin.
Or those red bumps that a lot of people get on the sides of their arms, which they think is just normal, their skin. But those red raised bumps on the outsides of your arms can actually be a gluten allergy too, or sensitivity too.
Yeah. So since you just said it right there, let's go ahead and just talk about what is the difference between, we're going to come back to some other things. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between a gluten sensitivity and a gluten allergy?
Well, this is going to be tough to say with being super basic, but sensitivity and allergies can actually have the same types of responses, just so you know. That's the important part of this, is whether it is a sensitivity or an allergy, you can have the same exact type of response, but they're different, what we call immunoglobulins, so inflammatory markers.
Do you think that we could keep it simple and say that if you can have a sensitivity and allergy that have the same exact response, just a different intensity?
Not even, because sensitivities can be just as intense as allergies, if not more.
Okay. So
it's the same thing, just a different test.
Okay.
But they both can have the systemic autoimmune symptoms, same exact symptoms.
Okay. Is an allergy more severe than a sensitivity?
No.
Interesting. I'm learning something now. I always thought that if you had a gluten allergy, I'm thinking anaphylaxis.
Right. That's what everybody thinks when they think of allergy. But you can have, the difference is allergy is an immunoglobulin E, whereas a sensitivity is immunoglobulin G. They can have the same reaction. So think about this. I have an IgE, which is an allergy to beef, but I have a sensitivity to gluten. Which is worse for me?
Gluten's way worse.
Exactly. But I have an IgG.
Believe you and me listening at home. When she gets gluten in her system, it's way worse than when she gets beef.
Correct. So I have a sensitivity to gluten that is far more severe in my world than my reaction to beef, which is an actual allergy for me, according to blood testing.
Okay. All right.
So, yes, some people have anaphylaxis, which is definitely an allergy, and you don't particularly have anaphylaxis to sensitivities, but you can still have more severe symptoms to sensitivities than allergies, depending on the type of reaction you're having.
Let me ask the question this way then, because I just learned a lot there. Would it be accurate to say if I have an allergy, those symptoms present much quicker versus if I have a sensitivity, I can generally...
No, because again, it really depends on the person. Some people with sensitivities will have reactions within 20 minutes of eating something. Some people have a reaction a week later. For an allergy, same thing. I mean,
Okay.
It could be seconds to minutes to days before you have a reaction.
Okay.
So the bottom line is if you have a sensitivity or an allergy, it's the difference of a blood test, and really the symptoms can be just as severe and intense for either the sensitivity or the allergy.
Okay, so we'll just say synonymous then. Can
Yes.
we use those terms interchangeably, sensitivity and allergy?
Sure, for today.
Okay. All right, let's get back to the common things that people are living with where they don't even think that it has anything to do at all with their gut. And it couldn't possibly have anything to do with that piece of pizza that they just ate last night.
Right. So we talked about the skin disorders. I started to mention migraines can be associated with food or with your gut health. And I can touch a little bit more on that in a little while. We can, of course, have the diarrhea, constipation, abdominal pain, and bloating. Absolutely, that could be part of it as well. We could have anxiety or depression. Spikes of your anxiety or depression can definitely be related to food sensitivities and gut health as well. So that's an interesting one. Let's see, what else? We can have joint pains, absolutely can be a response. Reflux.
Ooh, why are you looking at me like that?
Heartburn. Reflux can definitely be associated.
Holy cow. So we were at Jenni's parents over the holidays and the house was packed and I was sleeping. We were sleeping in the bonus room on a pull-out couch. And I don't know when the last time everybody's listening to this has slept on a pull-out couch, but they're generally not great.
Well, especially when it's 20 years old.
I don't care if it's 20 years old or brand new. I've slept on a brand new one, and they are just as uncomfortable as a 20-year-old one. But the one thing that most pull-out couches have in common is the foot of what normally would be called the foot of the bed is generally more elevated than the head of the bed, where the actual back of the couch is. Didn't think anything of it. We lay down, go to sleep. I woke up a couple of hours later. I thought my world was ending. I had never, ever experienced heartburn like this. I got up and I went, what is happening? My chest felt like it was on fire. I just could not believe how painful it was. And it took me a while because, again, I was in a daze. I was sleeping or just waking up to figure out it's because my feet were higher than my head. And because I've got this history for the past year or two of acid reflux and GERD and belching that has been progressively getting worse because I'm not listening to my wife and my food sensitivity testing.
I'm rolling my eyes.
That was just insane. I could not believe how bad it was. So, of course, I took some Tums real quick and went back to bed, but I completely switched around. So Jenni got to snuggle with my feet for the rest of the night. And it was okay for the rest of the night. It wasn't perfect, but it was okay. But the point of this story is, had I not known that I do have this food allergy that's going on that I'm ignoring because I can generally get by with it without these kind of symptoms, that would have really freaked me out. And I would have said, I've got to figure this out. But I already know what the problem is. So again, what we start every podcast with, treating problems, not symptoms. I know what the problem is. I'm just blatantly disregarding it.
Stubborn.
But what does that lead to down the road? I mean, I'm 36 right now. If I continue down this path, what could happen when I'm 46 or 56 or 66 or 76?
Right. So, and that's the thing. Let me back up a little bit. He clearly woke up and treated his symptoms by taking Tums, which is always what we don't recommend. I mean, you got to take something to help you get through the night, but the better option would be, okay, I really have to reel it in and quit eating eggs and quit eating dairy so that the reflux doesn't come back.
Yeah,
but anyway, I'm talking. So moving on.
But eggs and dairy are in cookies.
I make dairy-free and egg-free cookies, and they're delicious.
Yeah, but during the holidays, everybody that brings us cookies.
So if you go with these symptoms untreated, or if you're just treating the symptoms and not the problem, so you're just taking over-the-counter Tums or taking the omeprazole or the Prilosec just to get yourself through your day and never really figuring out what the problem is and fixing this, reflux itself can lead to things like what we call Barrett's esophagus, where the esophagus is very inflamed. We can get strictures. So, I know I was supposed to be being very basic here, but down the road, it can lead to further damage to the esophagus itself, but then can also lead to other autoimmune disorders because of this constant systemic inflammation.
That's the important part right there that I wanted you to say is, yeah, I have heartburn, but what's really happening on a very basic level is I have active acute inflammation. I have an active acute inflammatory process going on inside my body. I only notice it in my esophagus, my throat, my heartburn, those kind of symptoms. But in actuality, because there is an active inflammatory process going on, it's actually affecting my entire body. It's just not severe enough for me to give it my attention, if that makes sense. This is something that we might talk about a little bit next week, is your body generally can only focus on one main problem at a time. Meaning that if my heartburn is the most intense symptom that I feel, but I've got knee pain, I've got ankle stiffness, I've got other kind of things going on, my brain will only focus on the heartburn and it won't really notice what's going on in my knee or my ankle. And we see this all the time in the physical therapy department, where somebody will come in with excruciating back pain that they've been living with for years, and they'll say straight up on day one, "What's your goals? If you could just get rid of this back pain, my whole life would be better." And we'll work for 6, 8, 12 weeks, and the back pain will go away or be 95% better. And then they'll say, "My knee is killing me. If you could just fix this knee pain, my life would be so much better." And I'll have to say, "Wait a minute. Do you remember what you came here for?" So equating that back to heartburn, it's the same exact thing, where there's other things going on. We just don't notice them because your brain generally can only focus on one major thing at a time.
I could agree with that. And, this is, again, going a little bit more in depth, but the gut health, when we have a leaky gut where the food particles are passing through the gut lining because the gut lining is not healthy from inflammation, it releases things called cytokines. And those cytokines is actually what gets up to the brain and causes these systemic inflammatory responses. So then, as you mentioned, it can cause the heartburn, but also in addition to the heartburn, we're having some bloating, or we're having some joint pain, or we're having these skin disorders, but we're only focused on one particular thing, but really it's causing a lifetime of inflammatory responses.
Okay. So I guess if we want to reel this thing back into the very beginning that we started, the first thing that we talked about today, which is this podcast is for everybody. There's not a single person listening to this right now that this is not pertinent to, right?
Right.
So I guess I'm a perfect example where being with you, being around you, and knowing the business that you're in, I avoided getting my food sensitivity test done for years because I dreaded the thought that something would come back and I would say, oh, that's one of my favorite things. I can't give that up. So I dreaded it for years, put it off for years until finally I did it. Why did I do it the first time?
I'm trying to remember. Because I made you?
Because you made me.
I think. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I don't think you were having any particular symptoms at the time. But once we did your sensitivities and then we started removing some of the foods, you were amazed by the changes that you felt as far as your energy level, your bowel health.
That's where I wanted to go with this was I would have told you that I was living a perfect life as far as food goes, right? There was not a thing that I could not eat that didn't bother me, meaning I could eat anything I wanted to. I could eat a whole pizza if I wanted to. I could eat 20 cookies. I could eat ice cream. I could eat all this stuff and nothing bothered me. I didn't have to worry about what was the ingredients, never looked at any of it, just eat it. Then after doing my first food sensitivity screen, it comes back and it says one of the biggest ones was eggs. And I'm like, what the heck? I just bought chickens at the time or just got more chickens at the time because the chickens that I had at the time couldn't keep up with my demand. I was eating 5 eggs a day, 3 eggs for breakfast and 2 eggs for a snack during the day. Mm-hmm. So I had to get more chickens. And it wasn't a week after I got more chickens that I got my screen back. And one of the major red flags on my screen was eggs. I was like, come on, you got to be kidding me. So took eggs out 95% of my diet. I mean, I still eat them on Sundays usually, but I wasn't eating them Monday through
6 days a week.
Yeah. And that small change alone, I was amazed. A month later, I was like, I cannot believe how much more energy I feel. And I didn't think that I didn't have energy prior to this. That's the big thing.
People are probably thinking, Jake with more energy? How does Jenni do it?
Oh my god!
But it's true. So, and this was before you had any of the reflux issues. So you had removed egg, removed black bean, really limited your dairy. We had moved him from eating either like a rice pudding or yogurt for snack every day over to a dairy-free yogurt or completely changed up the snack. And so all of those things really impacted you, got a lot better. Then you kind of got off the wagon, got back to eating eggs a little bit more. And that's when the reflux started for you. So then we had to refocus on removing the eggs, right?
Yep.
So anyway, just to show you that initially you may not think you have any issues at all with any foods, but then once you actually do a gut healing process and remove certain foods and heal the gut lining, you may be amazed at what symptoms you were actually feeling that you just didn't realize or you weren't focusing on.
That's the big thing right there.
Or you're in denial about.
Yeah, denial.
Mm-hmm. So anyways, this was a good basic information about gut health and how it can be systemic and not just affecting women with their menstrual disorders or affecting the GI or, loose stool, constipation, stomach issues. It can really affect the whole body.
Yeah, the one big thing that I want everybody to take away from this is just because a gluten sensitivity or a gluten allergy does not mean that you've got diarrhea, right?
Correct.
That's the big thing. That's the vast majority of the population that is not familiar with this topic. That's what they think is you got gluten sensitivity, you got diarrhea. It really could be anything. It could be gator skin. It could be, what was it called when your hair was falling out?
Alopecia.
So your hair was falling out essentially your whole life. You were taking
the seborrheic dermatitis.
That.
That's what I had. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had to use medicated shampoo to prevent your hair from falling out.
I was on oral steroids at the age of 16 for seborrheic dermatitis because nothing else could help it.
Yeah. Chunks of hair were falling out of your head. How traumatizing as a kid.
That was horrible. And then, believe it or not, as soon as I went gluten-free, it was within 6 weeks, I was completely off of all oral steroids, off medicated shampoos. My hair was growing back. I didn't have the flaky skin. It was amazing.
That was the crazy part that we did not expect.
Yeah, because I had no idea for 15 years I was using medications for my hair. And then all of a sudden I take gluten out and my hair's better, when really I was taking gluten out because of GI issues.
You actually found this accidentally because you ran out of your prescription. I don't know if you remember this. You ran out of your prescription shampoo and you didn't use it for a while because you were in PA school. Life was crazy and you couldn't get back to get the prescription or whatever it was. And you noticed that your hair was not falling out.
Yeah.
Your brush after brushing your hair was not completely full of hair. There used to be 3 big piles of hair on the counter after every time Jenni brushed her hair.
Yeah, you're right. One that I would sweep up off the floor, one from taking out of my brush and then just kind of putting in all the stuff that was on after blow drying my hair. I mean, it was nuts how much hair I would throw away every single day after getting out of the shower and doing my hair. But yeah, so, that just shows that I had no idea for 15 years that I had a gluten allergy because all I thought was, I have seborrheic dermatitis. It's just my life. It's just my skin. My sister has it, whatever. It's just us. Until I took gluten out of my diet, ran out of my medication. I was like, man, my hair's not flaking. It's not falling out. This is crazy. It was all related to gluten.
Oh, hell.
I know.
All right. So what's an actionable step?
Contact us if you are wondering about your food sensitivities. We actually do food sensitivity testing on a large majority of our clients, which is a blood test. We can do it anywhere. It doesn't have to be done in Naples. So either contact us through the website, through social media, or call us. We can help.
Or send a carrier pigeon or a smoke signal.
Yeah, any of it. We'll catch it all.
Do it. Don't put it off. It could change your life for the better.
Now or 30 years from now.
There you go. Okay, cool. That was very, very informative, very, very basic, very, very valuable and beneficial. Re-listen to this. Send this to a friend that you might know, somebody, a family member or a friend who is constantly complaining of something that they think is just something that they got from their mama or their dada, genetically, whatever. And you might change their life.
We can beat genetics.
Okay, until next time.
Ciao for now.
Woo!
Thank you for subscribing on your social media and podcast platforms to the Berman Method. Dr. Jake Berman with Berman Physical Therapy and Jenni Berman, Physician Assistant with Berman Health and Wellness. You can find more information on our website, www.bermanpt.com for physical therapy, bermanpt.com/wellness for the health and wellness. You can also find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and on your podcast platform. So be sure to follow us, like us, subscribe to us. And if you would like any further information, definitely visit our website and reach out to us. You may also find our free reports on the websites as well, where you can download this free information for yourself. Have a great day.